I am no woman, just as I am all women. I am a god. When I feast, my supper is lotus and manna. I break bread and feed thousands, and feast upon poison charity. When I write, it is the word, to be heeded. The masses writhe in rapture, or incite an impassioned war. To what extent do you think there's still a lack of gender equality? I think it's across the board in every aspect that you can possibly imagine, especially in the arts where you have women creating things, and of course there's the non-binary and the gender fluid and people like that, but these are still seen as niche, feminist performers. Women who are doing something strong are going to get that pointed out, whereas male performers that are strong or doing something that is atypical, it's not going to point out despite the fact that they're male, whereas it will get pointed out is if a woman does something, a woman did this amazing thing. It's not just a person did an amazing thing. So of course that non-binary, gender fluid, gender queer sort of thing will work into, because there's not any sort of equality like that in society. It's definitely existent within the arts. But it doesn't matter if I'm approached as an artist to do something, it's almost people are doing me a favor, booking me, because, oh, well, you're a woman and you're doing this. Well, I'm doing this because I'm a professional. I'm doing this because I have the skill and the craft. And you're booking me because I'm going to draw people who want entertainment. So we're still very much treated as second citizens, a special category. And it only is worse for people who are non-binary and not white. I'm a white, educated woman from America. So I'm going to have loads more privilege than a queer person of color who grew up in, Southeast London. So wherever equality exists within the world is going to be in the microcosm of the arts as well. My protest song would not actually be a song, of course. For a performance poet, it would be more apt that it would be a poem. And as a performer at the London Poetry Brothel, I perform as the immersive theatrical character Coco Malay, which is an amalgam of Coco Malay and the American poet Edna St. Vincent Millay, who I believe Langston Hughes once said that America had two great achievements: the skyscraper and the poetry of Edna St. Vincent Millay. And she was, in the early 21st century, a wildly bisexual flapper who was cuckolding her very willing husband and writing communist plays and writing in meter and form and using metaphor and simile that if people put through critical analysis, they would be shocked, they would be scandalized that this woman was writing these things. And she was taking money from the wealthy elite. Very Marx. She was taking money from the capitalists to live her communist lifestyle. And she did not let anybody fuck with her. She did not lay down for anyone. And she wrote an amazing poem called Witch Wife. And it is, she is neither pink nor pale, and never will be all mine. She learned her heart on a fairy tale, and her mouth on a valentine. She has more hair than she needs, in the sun 'tis a woe to me, and her voice is a strand of colored beads, or steps leading into the sea. She loves me all that she can, and her ways to my ways resign, but she was not made for any man, and never will be all mine. And I used to think that meant that there was something inside me that, well, nobody will, and I am my own husband, I am my own god, I am my own warrior. And that is true, but it's beyond an interpersonal, it's beyond a romantic sense. It's something that I think everybody as an artist, regardless of gender, feels is you can exist so much in the world and exist so much to another person or people. But as Bowie says, is there is that little bit inside you that at one point you realize that if you could share it with the world, it would help you understand yourself more and your place in the world much more cohesively. So I think that it applies to anybody in the arts, especially, well, anybody, but especially people who work in the arts, is because we realize that there is that little bit of us that you have to have solely just for yourself. Otherwise, you lose your integrity as an artist. How can we create gender equality for everyone? Well, that is a tricky question, isn't it? Because gender equality in the arts exists because inequality exists within the greater outside world. So if you're going to fix gender inequality within the arts, you're going to have to fix the systematic problem. And that goes into just the way that society is built, and you have multicultural global Weltanschauung in which there's still very much disagreement on what women or non-binary genders can do. Was Saudi Arabia just allowing women to drive now today? Was it on the news? And then you see Americans say, well, look at how backwards that is. But then in America, you have Congress deciding what women can do with their bodies. So it's all in the way that women and gender are seen and played with and used as power politics in the world. So if you eliminate gender being used as a mechanism for control, then you're going to eliminate inequality. But as it stands, women are still treated as specialist acts. I get billed as a feminist poet because I believe it's 2017. Aren't we all feminists? But it gets cited because I actually talk about being empowered. I don't write inherently, overtly political poetry, but my beliefs definitely come out in my writing. And there are many more, I would say, slam poets in which identity politics and social activism is their raison d'etre. That is just supplementary to the actual writing that I do. Is I'm an existential confessionalist. So I can only use my own experience and my own life as the basis for material. And yet, because of the way that I live my life, I'm always picked out as something special of feminists or against the grain or something special. But I live a life in which this is kind of how most people operate. So I think that if we're going to create equality within the arts, we just have to work towards equality in the greater world. And that's just... Oscar Wilde said that art, as in life, one has to draw a line of morality. Well, we just need to do that, don't we?